Good morning, good morning. Once again, this is your Sir Ian, and in this video, we will be having the continuation on what we have started last week. So, kaugnay po dun sa ating quadrilateral last week, we will be having the discussion today para mas mapalawak yung nasimula natin. So, again, sana samahan niyo ako hanggang dulo because we will be including the two-column proof in this video. So sana lang po samahan natin para may matutunan tayo. Without further ado, let's go and move on with the slides here. Okay? So as I have mentioned, this is the continuation of the discussion that we have last week. And last week, we talked about quadrilateral. Specifically, we talk about parallelogram. In this topic, we will be discussing rectangle, rhombus, and square. If you can still recall, these three belongs under parallelogram. And aside from these three, we will be focusing on their definition and properties. So ano ba yung rectangle, what do we mean by rhombus, and at the same time, what do we mean by square? What are the properties na pwede nating magamit? Okay? As always, we have here now our aim for this lesson. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to, number one, we have to define those three. What are those three? We have here now the rectangle, rhombus, and square. After this video lesson, you should be able to define these three. Number two, we have to state the properties of these three. So kung meron tayong properties ng parallelogram, aside from those properties na taglay din itong tatlo, meron pa silang para sa kanila. And we will be discussing that also. And last but not the least, we have to be able to use this knowledge, yung properties na yon, sa pagkumpleto sa two-column proof. So marami na kaming na-experience na nagkakaproblema sa two-column proof. We are hoping na with this video, at least mabawasan yung confusion. At the same time, may matutunan po tayo. So let's start first dun sa ating map. So quadrilateral yan. At under ng quadrilateral, di ba meron tayong tatlo? The parallelogram, the trapezoid, and also kite. But for this lesson, we will be focusing on parallelogram. If you can still recall the flow chart, the diagram that we have last week, under parallelogram, we have here now the rectangle, we have here now the rhombus, and sa ilalim nila, we have here now the square. Naulitin ko lang, ang sabi ko sa inyo last time around, kapag magbibigay tayong definition, let's say for example, what is parallelogram? Ang unang babanggitin natin yung direktang nasa taas niya. So, parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides parallel and equal. So that is the definition of parallelogram. So if we will be defining rectangle, the first word na papasok sa atin, a rectangle is a parallelogram. So yung direktang nasa itaas. Like manner, yung rhombus is a parallelogram. So what about the square? We can definitely move square sa parallelogram, pero mas madalas na ginagamit. A square is a rectangle. So dun pa lang, we have the idea. A square is also a rhombus. Again, we can use parallelogram. A square is a parallelogram, but we have to use these two. Kailangan natin gamitin sa definition. Now, one thing na dapat po nating malaman or maintindihan dito, lahat ng nasa direktang ilalim niya, taglay niya yung characteristic nung nasa ibabaw niya. Sir, parang magulo. Okay. So halimbawa, ang quadrilateral natin, four sides na polygon, lahat ng nasa ilalim niya, taglay yung characteristic na yun. Ibig sabihin, lahat ito, 4 ang sides. Yung parallelogram, meron siyang mga properties. Sa makatwid, lahat ng nasa ilalim niya, taglay pa rin nitong tatlong ito yung properties ng parallelogram. Okay? Now, balikan lang natin ano ba yung properties of parallelogram. We have here now basically 6. The number 1 will be opposite sides are equal. Number 2, opposite sides are parallel. Now, pakitandaan lang po natin, pag sinabi nating opposite sa math, ibig sabihin magkatapat. Number 3, opposite angles are equal. So yung magkatapat na angle, magkakantuhan, yan, equal sila. Consecutive angles are supplementary. So yung magkasunod, consecutive magkasunod daw na angles are supplementary, which means pag inad natin 180 degrees yung magiging sum nila. And the diagonal divides the parallelogram to 2 congruent triangles. Pagka nag-drawing ka ng isang diagonal, nung nahati siya, yung dalawang triangle na nabuo, congruent siya. The same shape, the same size. And last but not the least, the diagonals bisect each other. Now, since rectangle, rhombus, and square are all under parallelogram, they contain these properties as well. So these 3 contains these properties. Hindi mo na kailangang isama ito pag didiscuss natin ng mga properties nitong tatlo. Automatic dahil sa definition natin, ito na yung ating gagamitin, taglay niya na itong 6 na ito. I hope I'm making myself very clear here. Now, let's talk about rectangle. Siguro naman familiar tayo dyan. So this will be the shape of a rectangle, and if we will be observing this, even dun sa ating pong elementary days, what have you observed with regard to this figure? So eto po yung pangalan So the name that I have chosen ay leaf. So we have rectangle leaf. So we named this just like what we do in naming a parallelogram by using the vertices. Again, magkakasunod. So we have here now rectangle leaf. What have we observed about this rectangle? The first thing that will come to mind will be the rectangle is equiangular. So pag sinabi nating equiangular, all the angles are right angles. Pare-parehas yung sukat ng angles po natin. So if this is 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, equiangular. All the angles are the same. All the angles are right angles. Now, if we will be drawing diagonals here, ang mapapansin po natin, the diagonals are equal. Kung anong sukat dito, siya din po yung magiging sukat dito. So pag nag-intersect sila, base po dun sa ating definition or property ng parallelogram that they bisect each other, magkakasing haba mula sa L hanggang sa intersection, mula sa intersection hanggang sa V, mula sa intersection hanggang sa I, and mula sa intersection hanggang sa E. So pare-parehas po magiging sukat yan. Based po dun sa ating properties ng parallelogram. Now, aside from the properties gained from parallelogram, which is 6, it stands for 6. These two will be the additional properties of rectangle. Itong dalawang ito. So if we will be including this, the definition for rectangle is, this will be the definition that we will be using. A rectangle is a parallelogram with one right angle. Now, some of us will be confused, Sir, bakit one right angle lang? Samantalang 4 yan. Kasi based sa properties natin ng parallelogram, opposite sides are equal. So kung 90 ito, yung katapat niya, automatic 90 na rin. Kasi equal yung opposite eh. And then, consecutive angles are supplementary. So if this is 90, para maging 180, yung kasunod niya, dapat 90 degrees din. So, hindi mo kailangang state yun kasi alam na natin, excuse me, yung properties ng parallelogram. So, again, this will be our definition for rectangle. And again, ang keyword natin dito, a parallelogram with one right angle. Okay? So, pwedeng may mag-contest, sir, what about the square? Mamaya yun. So, as of now, this will be our definition. Okay? Now, let's talk about the other one, which is the rhombus. So, yung rhombus natin parang square, itinulak mo ng konti rito, tumabingi. Okay? So, sabi ko kanina, yung pangalan ng rectangle natin is live, and it is good to live if someone is caring for you. So, this one, I named this one care. So, rhombus care. Okay? Now, the rhombus is equilateral. So, kanina, equiangular. This time around, we have here now equilateral. So, when we talk about equilateral, all the sides are equal. So, kung anong sukat dito, siya rin yung sukat doon, siya rin yung sukat doon, siya rin yung sukat doon. So, if this side has a measurement of 4, all the other sides has also a measure of 4. So, that is what we mean by equilateral. Now, if we draw diagonals here, if you notice here, the first thing that you will be able to notice is that the diagonals upon intersection forms perpendicular lines. So, the diagonals are perpendicular. Ito yung symbol natin, parang inverted na T, baliktad, to each other. Pag sinabi po nating perpendicular, 90 degrees yung form ng angle nila sa intersection. So, yung kanina po sa atin sa rectangle, hindi ito kasama. Kasi kung mapapansin nyo, balikan lang natin ng konti. Hindi naman 90 degrees yan. Hindi sila perpendicular to each other. So, in this case, they are perpendicular to each other, which means 90 degrees yung nabuo niyang angle dito. Aside from this, the diagonal serves as an angle bisector. So coming from this point, from this vertex up to this vertex, meron tayong diagonal. Kung ito ay 45 degrees, nung dumaan si diagonal, nahati yung 45 sa 2 equal parts. Which means this will become 22.5 at yung kalahati, 22.5. If this angle, angle C, is 120 degrees, let's say for example, at rhombus yung pinag-uusapan, dumaan tayo dito ng diagonal, yung 120 will be divided into 2 equal parts, which means this portion will be 60 degrees, the other part will also be 60 degrees. So aside from the properties gained from parallelogram, these 3 will be the additional properties for rhombus. Ito. So, ano magiging definition natin? The definition of rhombus will be a parallelogram with adjacent sides equal. So, some of us read this as adjacent sides. So, wala po tayong magiging problema as long as we understood what we're trying to talk about. So, adjacent sides or adjacent sides, okay lang. So, ano ibig sabihin ng adjacent? Yung magkatabi. So, ito yung side na to. Anong katabi niya? It's either RA or EC. So, ang sabi, yung adjacent sides, equal sila. So, if this is 6, this is also 6. Again, some questions will rise up. Sir, bakit adjacent side? Lahat nga. Kasi sa properties natin ng parallelogram, opposite sides are equal. So, dahil equal itong dalawa, yung katapat nila, automatic equal na rin. So, simplified natin. So, parallelogram with adjacent sides equal. So, the keyword here will be adjacent sides para sa rhombus. Please do not forget that. Okay? Now, let's talk about the last one of the 3. This is the square. Ayan. And, syempre, pag may nagkikare sa'yo, you're going to have this hoop. So I named this one square hoop. So the first thing, the square is both equilateral, and equiangular. So pare-parehas yung sukat ng sides, pare-parehas din yung sukat ng angle natin. Okay? Another one, if we draw a diagonal, the diagonals are perpendicular to each other and have the same length. So napansin natin, perpendicular, 90 degrees yung nabuo dito, kung square yan, tas yung haba, equal. And serves as an angle bisector. So kung 90 yan, nag-drawing ka dito, automatic 45 degrees. Nahati equally yung angle kung saan tayo nag-drawing ng diagonal. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm making myself clear here para po sa atin. Now, if we will be combining these two, if we will be taking a more focused observation, it is apparent that the square contains both the characteristics of rectangle and rhombus. Taglay pala nitong square yung properties or characteristic ng rhombus at rectangle. Ayan, no? Diagonals both equilateral and equiangular. The diagonals are perpendicular to each other, have the same length, and serves as an angle bisector. Parang pinagsama lang natin yung dalawang shape, rectangle and rhombus. So if we will be talking about this one, we have here now basically three definitions. The first one, a square is a rectangle with adjacent sides equal. That will be the first one. Ginamit mo yung rectangle, so obviously, in definition rectangle ang gagamitin mo, na merong adjacent sides equal. I-combine mo lang sa rhombus. Or baliktad. A square is a rhombus with one right angle. Again, we use rhombus here. The definition of rhombus will be applied plus one right angle, which is the definition for rectangle. So kahit alin dito, pwede natin gamitin. Or, as I have told you, pwedeng galing tayo sa parallelogram. A square is a parallelogram that is both a rectangle and a rhombus. So, ganun po yung mangyayari po sa atin. So, these three, if I were you, I'm going to take note of these three, can be used as the definition for square. Ito po yun. So, pakitandaan lang po, we have to remember, a square is a rhombus, but a rhombus is not a square. Hindi po square ang rhombus. Pero yung square, pwede mo siyang i-consider na rhombus kasi under siya, if you can still recall that. Another thing is, a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. So that will be something that you have to remember. Eto, to be honest, madalas ko nakikita sa mga quizzes or test na galing po sa higher ups. So, fill in the blank normally yan. So, ang magiging palatandaan natin, una palagi yung square dito. Okay? Now, sa pagsasagot po sa two-column proof, as I have told you, we will be discussing that. Balikan lang natin yung properties of equality. The first one will be reflexive property. So, parang reflection. Kung ano yung nakikita mo, equal siya sa sarili niya. Reflexive property. Pangalawa, symmetric property. So dito, if A is equal to B, then B is equal to A. Kung familiar tayo sa salitang symmetry, sa mga halaman normally, kung ano yung nakikita mo sa kaliwa, yun din yung nakikita mo sa kanan. Parehas sila ng pattern. So kahit pagbaliktarin mo sila, they are all the same. Okay? Number 3 is transitive property. From the word transit, in motion. So if A is equal to B, lumipat ka sa B. B is equal to C, lumipat ka sa C. Therefore, yung A, equal din siya sa C. This is called transitive property. So we're just recalling the properties of equality na malamang tinakal nyo during grade 8 math. Another thing na dapat po familiar tayo will be the congruence postulates. Again, congruent means same shape, same size. Okay? So SSS, ASA or ASA, SAS or SAS, and SAA or SAA. Some of us also will be able to see AAS. So kahit naman kasi bali-baligtarin yan. Now, note S stands for sides and A stands for angles. Now, if we will be having here now path, okay? And the diagonal, dalawang triangle. These are congruence postulates sa triangle. Ang sabi natin, the diagonal divides the parallelogram to two congruent triangles. SSS, ito equal dito. Itong side na to equal dito. At itong side na to ng triangle equal sa sarili niya. Kasi pag pinaghiwalay mo, itong side na to dito, itong side na rin yun para doon. So yun yung SSS. Pag sinabing asa, balikan ko lang, ito sunod-sunod angle dito, katumbas ng angle dito sa kabila. Angle dito, katumbas ng angle dito sa kabila. And then, itong side na to, katumbas sa sarili niya. So, angle, side, angle. Doon yung asa. Magkakasunod. Okay? How about SAS? Side, angle, side. So, magkakasunod po ang ibig sabihin niya. Huwag po sanang kalimutan. Okay, let's move on with the two-column proof. Dito, I'm going to be honest, marami din sa mga kasamahang guro nagtatalo-talo with regards to proving the two-column proof. So what we're going to try to do now is to simplify things. Okay po? So ang dapat lang nating tandaan, ibibigay yung nasa taas para in preparation dun sa nasa baba. Subukan natin. We have here now a parallelogram axis. May diagonal, and the given will be parallelogram axis with diagonal AI. Something that we have to prove, kaya nga two-column proof, is triangle AXI is congruent to triangle ISA. So let's start. Ito yung two-column proof. So normally, you will be seeing things or table like this na may mga bakante and we have to fill it up. During your grade 8 math, if you paid attention to your teacher in math, you will be able to see this two-column proof. The left side, we have here now the statements. Ano yung masasabi mo? And then, on the right side, sa table natin, you will be able to see yung dahilan or reasons. Sa ganitong klase po ng given, imposible ka maging zero. The number one, dito sa reason, palaging given. Ito nawawala. Tanong, ano ba yung given? Babalikan mo lang dito. Ayun, given. So, parallelogram axis with diagonal AI. So, ito yung laging nasa unahan. Okay po? So, ulit. The first thing lalabas po sa two-column proof ninyo will be yung given. Ito. Number one reason palagi, given. Number one statement palagi, yung nakasulat sa given mismo. Lahat yan. Okay? Now, balikan natin yung pangalawa. AX is parallel to IS. AX parallel to IS. And AS parallel to IX. Bakit siya naging parallel? Yun yung reason eh. Bakit siya naging parallel? Balikan natin. Sir, may parallelogram tayong salita rito. Ano nga yung parallelogram? Definition natin, parallelogram, quadrilateral with opposite sides, parallel and equal. Ayan yung parallel. So, ang reason natin dito, definition of parallelogram. Now, sir, pwede ko po bang isulat dito yung mismong definition? Pwede. Kaya lang ang haba, di ba? Eh kung ang isusulat na lang natin, uy, ang ibig sabihin niya, ito yung kumakatawan sa definition ng parallelogram. So we can do that, mas maiksi pa siya. So this will be okay. Now, angle XAI, so we are referring to this angle, itong kapirasong ito, is equal to angle SIA. Ito. Ba't daw siya naging equal? Dito na nagkakaroon ng confuse yung mga nagsasagot sa two-column proof. Balikan natin yung nasa taas. Sabi ko kanina, yung mga statement at reason sa unahan in preparation sa baba. Sir, parallel ito. Ito ay parallel. Ito ang tinutukoy na angle. May diagonal tayo dito. Kung babalikan natin, this is parallel lines cut by a transversal. At nasa loob ng parallel lines yung angle, so interior angle ito. Ano yung naalala natin sa parallel lines cut by a transversal? Alternate interior angles are equal. Okay? So, angle na yung tinutukoy dito. If I were you, mamarkahan ko yung angle na yan. Okay? Pangalawa, reflexive property. Yung matatagpuan mo sa kabilang triangle, matatagpuan mo rin sa ikino-compare na triangle. Parehas lang sila. So, ito yung tinutukoy. Normally, diagonal palagi yan. AI is equal to IA or AI din. Ayun. So, basta nakita nyo yung reflexive property, kadalasan yun yung diagonal natin sa ating figure sa quadrilateral. Okay, so markahan natin. So, may angle tayo. Meron tayong side. So, angle side. Number 5. Angle XIA. So, ito naman yung tinutukoy. Is equal to angle SAI. SAI. Ito tinutukoy. Bakit nga ulit sila equal? Parallel lines cut by a transversal. They are both interior angles. So still, alternate interior angles are equal. So meron tayong angle, side, angle. Kapag ang kailangan nating patunayan ay yung triangle congruence, yung congruence postulate yung sagot. At ano yun? Hindi natin huhulaan. Kung ano yung nabuo natin dito, again, kaya ako pinapamarkahan angle, side, angle, ASA. So yun yung makikita po natin as a congruence postulate. If the statement will be proving the congruency between triangles, ang reason palagi niyan, any of the 4 congruence postulate. Okay? So it's either SSS, ASA, SAS, or SAA. Alin man po dun sa 4 na yan. Okay. Let's have here now another example. So we have here now parallelogram home. And something that we have to prove is HO is equal to ME and OM is equal to HE. By the way, balikan ko lang. Dito, kung ano yung something to prove, ito, para hindi tayo ma-zero, ito palagi yung makikita mo sa last statement. So it makes sense. Etong given will be the first thing na makikita mo sa statement mo, yung given. And something to prove will be the last thing na makikita mo dun sa statement mo. Okay? So, balikan na natin to. So, ito yung ipoprove natin, ito yung given, ito yung ating table. Statements, reasons. Again, if you notice, number 1, given, ito yung dapat nating ilagay dito. So, automatic, hindi ka na 0 kung 1 to 7 yan. Okay? And if you notice also, HO is equal to ME, OM is equal to HE, yun yung makikita mo dito sa dulo. So, kung ito yung bakante, ilagay mo na kaagad. Okay? Now, pagka-given natin dito, ang nakalagay sa reason, definition of parallelogram. Halos kaparehas lang yung nasa unang example natin kanina. So dito, opposite sides are parallel. Alin yun? HEOM, HOEM. So they are parallel. Definition of parallelogram. Now, sa number 3, this will be a little bit different. May nakalagay, draw EO. Kaya nga may dotted line tayo dito. Nag-draw daw tayo ng EO. So, ang tanong dito, reason. Pag may nakalagay po dito sa statement na draw, ini-instruct kayo, o kaya construct, ang reason palagi, pakitandaan, by construction. Bakit? Wala naman talaga sa given, pinagbuo kayo. So once po na pinagbuo kayo or pinagawa kayo, inutusan kayo na gumuhit nito, by construction palagi ang reason dito. Okay? Now, alternate interior angles are equal sa reasons. Sa number 4, alin yung magiging equal dito? HEO equal siya sa MOE. Ano pa? HOE, yung angle na to, equal siya sa MEO. This one. So that will be something that we will be putting. Okay? So pag tayo ang pinaglalagay po ng alternate interior angles are equal, my suggestion is, ilagay mo na lahat. So tandaan nyo na yung markings, angle. Okay, reflexive property, yung kinonstruct natin, equal sa sarili niya. So meron na tayong angle, angle, side. Pag magkakasunod, A, S, A. Anong susunod na statement? Congruency between the two triangles. Ito. So bakit siya congruent? Angle, side, angle. As a congruence postulate. Ngayon, meron tayong ilalagay. Ito. Ito, isa pang tip para hindi tayo ma-zero. Pagka ang sinusundan natin ay congruency between two triangles sa statement at congruence postulate sa reason, ang kasunod nito, 90% will be this word. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are equal. C, P, C, T, E. Now, with regards sa ibang books, ang nakalagay, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I will stand by my observation last time at yung sinabi ko sa inyo, mali yung salitang congruent dito sa dulo. Dahil part siya, equal ang gagamitin. So, we will be doing this one. Again, if you see sa mga books po natin na CPC-TC, wala na akong magagawa kasi nakalaganap na yan. Nailimbag na. Pero the correct one will be CPCTE. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are equal. So these words, this reasoning, will be 90% be seen pagkatapos ng congruence postulate dito. Makikita nyo kaagad ito after nung reasoning na congruence postulate. So that's it. That will be the two-column proof. I think, kagaya ng dati, you have to try this one out. Now, it's your turn now. So we have here now VWXY and the two diagonals were drawn. And we have the angles 1, 2, 3, and 4. What will be our given and something to prove? Rhombus VWXY with diagonals VX and WY. Prove angle 1 is equal to angle 2. Angle 3 is equal to angle 4. Yun ang something to prove. Ito yung ating table. So we have here now 5. So I'm just going to give you 3 minutes, guys. Paki-fill-upan lang. After 3 minutes, I'm going to pop up the missing parts here so you can compare your notes. So again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Answer it now. So balikan lang natin bakit. Ulitin ko lang po yung ating paraan sa two-column proof. Yung naunang reason at statements natin, inilagay yan in preparation para po sa baba. If we will be dealing with triangle congruency here, automatic ang reasoning natin dito, congruence postulates. At the same time, kagaya nung nabanggit ko, 90%, ang kasunod ng ating congruence postulate, CPCTE. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are equal. So dito, alam na natin. Definition of rhombus. Ano ba yung equal sa rhombus na yan? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. WY is equal. They should be equal. I'm sorry about this one. YW or WY. Anong property ng equality yan? See that? So, hindi ka na masizero kasi meron ka ng 1, meron ka ng 5, meron ka ng 3. Dapat meron ka ng sagot sa mga yan. Ang posible mo na lang pagkamalian, guys, will be number 2 at saka number 4. Okay, 1 more minute, guys. 1 more minute. Yan na lang. Pero, if you follow the steps and the observation, the analysis, if you will be analyzing this carefully, there is a possibility na makuha mo itong dalawa. $20 guys, 20 seconds. I really hope that we learn something right now. And yung 2-column proof, medyo nabawasan yung confusion natin. Kasi marami talaga, even sa mga teachers, nagkakaroon ng pag-uusap with regard to this one. What will be the reasoning? What will be the statement? Okay, so time's up. Let's see the answers. Eto. So obviously, yung given natin nandito sa number 1. So definition of rhombus, equal lahat yung sides niya. Ayan. Diba? Anong property ito? Equal siya sa sarili niya. Reflexive property. So, papansin natin, side, tapos, ano yung equal natin? Ito. Tapos yung diagonal, reflexive property. SSS. Panay side, walang binanggit na angle eh. So, SSS, Congruence Postulate. At sabi ko nga sa inyo kung ano yung something to prove, yun yung lalabas sa number 5 or sa dulo ng ating statement. So this will be it. So again, that's it guys. And I hope you learned something. Sana magamit nyo sa pagsasagot po dun sa ating learning task this week. So again, I'm hoping you learned something. This is your Sir Ian saying, keep on learning guys. And I hope to see you soon. Sana wag tayo magsawa kahit mahirap na matuto. Sana pati, yung mga video lectures natin, tinatapos natin so we can learn something. So that's it. Have a nice day, good morning, and keep on learning. Salute. Peace out.